Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host, and this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and then examine the stories and the art. This time I want to take a little look at this book that you see before you. This is Doomsday +1, number 9 from 1978, Charlton Comics. And this book is written by Gill and drawn by Byrne. And now everybody knows Byrne. Again, Doomsday +1. It was a post-apocalyptic science fiction comic book series, of course published by Charlton, from 75 to 79. Of course, and it was created by Gill and Byrne. It is known as the first original color comic series by Byrne. Yeah, it was an original one. He had, of course, I talked about him before, Byrne. He was the creator and artist for the Qorraq 2000 backup series that was in E-Man, and that was like basically his first endeavor into real mainstream comics. And the robots in this story, yeah, there are robots in here, bear a strong design resemblance to the design theory behind Qorraq 2000. You can tell that. He had John Byrne had also previously done some artwork on Space 1999 for Charlton, but that was that doesn't count as for what they said is the original series, because that was a tie-in show, TV tie-in adaptation. And of course, Byrne has done a lot in the comics field for various publishers. Of course, by the time this one was published, he was over at Marvel doing Iron Fist, I think it was, for a while, and got onto Fantastic Four, and also X-Men for a while, then Fantastic Four, co-created Alpha Flight, and he did various other things too. And during that time, then he went over to DC and did the Superman reboot for DC Comics, and did that very successfully for a few years, and various other things. He took over the writing and art chores on Wonder Woman for a time. And of course, back over at Marvel, he did the same for the Submariner, and he's done all kinds of things. I'm not real sure what he's doing now. He had done, of course, he's did an Angel miniseries. That's Angel the Vampire with a Soul, the spinoff from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I don't know what else he may have done over there doing that, and he's also a novelist, and he has done some Star Trek stuff for. I've only got one issue, but I don't know how many they actually did. He did some. I think he did some on the aliens, and Klingons, I think, but they did a series of basically fumetti, photo stories, in which they took. He wrote a story, and then with computers, with the Photoshop or whatever, dropped in the characters, the images of the original actors from the original series, as well as guest actors, and shots of the various backgrounds to design and compose and tell a new original story. And I think that's kind of marvelous. It's something that they can do now. And so we'll take a little look. And of course, Joe Gill, I don't want to dismiss Joe Gill at all, but he was one of the most prolific comic writers in comic history for decades. He wrote primarily for Charlton Comics. He did so much of everything. And also, I wanted to point out that the Doomsday +1 actually only ran for 6 issues with new original stories. And then issue 7, they started reprinting them. So this issue 9 is a reprint of issue 3. And then I guess they also had in the 80s, some of the stuff was reprinted by a different company. And if I remember correctly, there was something about another issue that was produced later and published sometime later, I think by a different publisher, but I'm not sure. Both my source and my memory might be incorrect on that point. And so, before we take a little look inside this book, I wanted to tell you that if you would like, I can do character cards, comic book characters, also in various styles and stylizations, or even original characters, comic book characters, cartoon characters, movie, video game characters, and the like. And just let me know what you need, and we'll discuss it. Contact me here at my email address. Okay, back to Doomsday +1. And we'll just take a brief look. Won't delve too deeply into this story, but of course it is post-apocalyptic. These astronauts. Oh, I wanted to talk about this cover illustration. Is that it's for the initial issues were initial 6 issues had original individual cover drawings by John Byrne for that issue. Then when they started doing this reprint stuff, they took elements from panels of the interior and reproduced them, blew them up and reproduced them here for their cover. So these were actually parts of two panels inside the book. And you see, it starts off with a little prologue telling you what happened. The end of the Earth. These astronauts off in space. Somebody, one nut job started a nuclear war, wiping out all or most of the people. They come back to Earth, and the astronauts come back to Earth sometime later, and think they're probably the only ones remaining. They meet up with a 3rd century Goth warrior who had apparently been frozen in the ice somewhere in the Arctic Circle and thawed out and come back to life, even though that would not be possible. And he's a friend of theirs, known as Kuno. And this issue is called the Peacekeepers. This story is the Peacekeepers. The head astronaut, the commanding officer of the astronauts, there are only 3 of them, is Boyd. He is, they found an intact base. He took on a plane doing some reconnoitering around the planet. Meanwhile, this ship from deep space has arrived, and it is inhabited by these large robots, and they are the Peacekeepers. They are sent by various alien races combined, and they have their alien minds in these robots so that they can all exist together in the same environment from various species and various environments. And they're considered, because of the wars, that they consider Earth and the humans as potential threats to the peace of the spaceways, even though we haven't gotten that far yet, and encounter Boyd, and they have a little conflict. Boyd's plane is blasted out of the sky. It crashes, but he bailed out and survived. His friends go to pick him up, and then they're confronted by the aliens. They zap the one girl, what's her name, Gill, and but she is just teleported aboard their ship. But Kuno is very emotional, and he swears vengeance on them. Of course, as far as he's concerned, they're magicians, and it's all magic. And here the robots explain things. And here you can see, if you're familiar with ROG 2000, you can see what I meant about this design similarities of ROG 2000 and these robots. So they go confront the aliens as they land, and Kuno is, I said, emotional, while everyone else wants to talk. He wants to kill, and he promptly attacks and dispatches that robot with a big old iron axe. And that's a very nice, spectacular double-page spread there, in which Kuno is taking out this giant robot. Then they apologize and try to they talk with the robots, get Jill back. She explains what's going on, and they explain what's going on. They don't stand a chance. Boyd grabs something, these rods, throws it, and damages some equipment, causing an explosion, incapacitating, because it's the power flow, momentarily incapacitating these robots, but then it doesn't last very long. Then Kuno basically surrenders himself, says, "I no longer want to kill, I want to talk." He says, "You want to destroy our world, it's so beautiful," all this other stuff. It is people who have been bad, and he basically almost like convinces them and says, "No, we're going to have to destroy you all." So he says, "Well, to heck with you," and he he goes to town and takes out that robot and causes the whole ship to crash, and it's a really nice early John Byrne artwork. And then the robot's damaged, and says, "Maybe we'll reconsider this, because you make good points, and you have some, and there's so few of you left. You're not really a threat but we'll keep an eye out on you." And then they go back, and that's that. But you can see some, I guess for him, experimental page layouts, and take some styles to his art. You can see it's early in his career. He hasn't matured and developed to what we know later, but it's still quite obviously Byrne work. So And was a fine attempt at a science fiction, short-lived science fiction series, and I always enjoyed it. It's a fun read, and it's good to see this early work by John Byrne. So that is what I've got for you this time. I hope you enjoyed Doomsday +1. The decision has been made. Your world must be destroyed. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. What do you think of this early Byrne work? Are you a John Byrne fan? What was your favorite piece of work that he did for Charlton or Marvel or DC, what have you? And thank you for joining me. And remember, everybody remember, comics are art.